Hey Jenna, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Today I'm excited to go over with you a new CS Byte of ours called Outside and Unplugged for middle school students. So in this activity packet, you will have three different opportunities to engage with computer science through Unplugged. Whether you choose to take them outside can be up to you. They all have that component that allows that flexibility of in the classroom or outside. So let's dive right in today. And so the first one I'm excited about comes, thinking just after the Super Bowl and coming up on March Madness. This is an opportunity for students to learn about algorithms by using sports playbooks. So with this activity, students are going to look at some famous movie clips to show some like fun sports plays. So whether or not your students are athletic or not, it's not necessary. We're going to dive into some pre-vetted, student appropriate links with plays. So the first one that they'll look at, and then this activity is kind of a we do and you do, so that you'll model it, you'll talk about this as a class, and then students will have opportunity to create their own individual one. So have you ever seen the movie Mighty Ducks, Jenna?
Yeah, yes, I'm a hockey player through and through. It's one of my favorite movies.
I love it. And what's really cool about this activity is that the videos that we chose are just old enough to where your students may or may not have ever seen them. So their excitement of seeing something new, is piqued as well. So you're kind of getting this like, oh, well, this is a movie we haven't ever seen, or I might want to go home and watch this because we watched a clip of it. So in the movie The Mighty Ducks, there is a climactic scene where the team gets in a formation called the Flying V, and we will look at this as an algorithm, like how did they get to that position, what was necessary in a sports play, and how that aligns to what an algorithm is. So for this activity, I've linked all the videos. There also is a worksheet and then a step-by-step teacher lesson plan. So we'll go through, let me keep scrolling on down. So because this is a lengthy lesson, we've built it so that you have all of the materials in one place as a full lesson plan. And so in this lesson plan, I've given the vocabulary words. And then even, sometimes when we do an unplugged activity, we want to make sure that we're really understanding the computer science concept. So when we use an analogy, it's important to identify to the students like the analogy this represents in computer science is this concept. So that is laid out for you really simple. So if your students are like, well, what are the players, et cetera, that you can show them that this is the analogy we're using to represent this computer science concept. So for each video, you'll see a breakdown of essentially the algorithm that's needed with these simple steps. So in every play discussed in the lesson, there's a setup, there's a formation, an execution, and a payoff. And sometimes the payoff might be in a score, and sometimes it might just be in a distraction so that something else could happen or getting the ball back for your team. So all of these videos are summarized. They're all about PG, and most of them are like the 1990s. There's a couple that are early 2000. So you've got a variety of sports too. We've got, as we started with hockey, and then it goes into football. There's a baseball, and then there is even a relevant this year's NFL clip. So students have the opportunity to really get excited and explore different ones. And then after you go through it, the first example together as a class and identify the parts of where the algorithm is, there is a worksheet for the students to then create and answer some questions and follow along. So for the first part, they're following along with the we do and they're learning about the playbook. They're seeing those same concepts and it decomposes that flying V. And then the second component is they get to explore the playbooks, the plays and other movies, and then have a chance to write their own. It could even be for something maybe not represented. Maybe they're a frisbee or something they're doing in PE so that they can, write a set of instructions demonstrating a play. And what's really cool, if you notice about plays in sports, is they have fun names. So it can be really creative. That flying V, this one is a fake fumble, and then there's a hidden ball. There's one is called the annexation play. So you've got different you can be as creative as you want. Kids can get a little silly with their naming, and then they'll have a chance to really think about their play and what their play is trying to achieve. And that's a way to emphasize the computer science concepts of creating an algorithm and how specific you would have to be. So that's just one. And then if you want to, like I said, if you want to take it outside that component, then is let's practice somebody's algorithm and act it out. So let's divide the class in half. How many people do you need for your team, Jenna, for your play? And then take them and go try to act it out so that you can have that opportunity to have a little extra fun outdoors, enjoy the weather. If students are struggling, we've also included some sentence starters of how to think through some of the play tips. So we really want everybody to be excited about computer science with this one.
That's awesome. I love that activity.
I know this is perfect timing too. Like I said, I got really excited thinking about the Super Bowl and then the upcoming March Madness. So this next activity, though, takes a break from sports, but allows you to have some station activity outside. So maybe you have a giant parking lot, or you've got some outdoor pavement that you could use that allows chalk surfaces, even a sidewalk. You could use the different sections of the sidewalk for different stations. So you want to spread out. This requires some creation ahead of time, but I've allowed for about 5 stations, and then you can increase to 10 or 15 if you wanted to do, say, station 1 you loved and you wanted it to be kind of a beginner example. Well, then you can repeat with another similar station 1, but increase in difficulty. So you can, if you've got a lot of kids in your class or a lot of space, then just duplicate all 5 stations, but increasing the level of difficulty so that students can continue to be engaged and rotate the entire class period. So as I said, there's 5 stations that we give suggestions for. You can use students if you want to take a grade in terms of like having them draw on the ground the answer, then you're going to need a lot more space. So something to consider is we've suggested using clipboards so that your surface of what you prepared can be reused with multiple class periods, because we know that many teachers might have 5 class periods they're taking outside. So we don't want first class periods answers to be there all day. So just a tip on that, maybe have an answer sheet or something you're looking for on a clipboard for the students, or create the problem so that it's kind of progressive, such as station number 1, where they're giving some options of more than one correct answer. So maybe first period gives correct answer option A, and then second period cannot give that answer. They have to come with another one. So for this grid problem, wants to know how many different paths can you create a code for to get from A to B. And so if you wanted students to have their own chalk and do it there, you could have period 1, do one option and give those instructions. And then you could also have the subsequent classes check each other's work or debug it. So you're giving time to review and reflect on each one. The next one incorporates a little bit of elementary activity back into the middle school day with hopscotch. So you might draw hopscotch out on the ground for your students, and students have to create an algorithm to play. Or maybe you give them rocks and you tell them you're going to play a timed game. I want to know how well you did based on reading your algorithm. So I might know by the end that Jenna only got to number 5 because I read her algorithm. So for every time Jenna throws, that you would write down your algorithm and that would be your work. So it's kind of play and work at the same time. And then station number 3, there are some data patterns. So this links out to a set of data patterns that you could write on the ground and have students on their clipboard find the next set in the sequence. So there are several different data sheets here where you can see an answer and a solution, and students would then approach it, have a conversation, and try to make a prediction of what pattern would come next based on the 3 options that they see. So then I like those because it really increases in difficulty as you keep going, and it also gives the answer key. And they would be easy for you to color and draw, and you might get a lot of information from your students. So the station number 4, I've given a couple of different ones. I really liked this. I brought it in from another creator, and it is playground games. But it has all of these different playground games that your students might be familiar with or might not, stuck in the mud or flowchart, or, you could even do, like keep away if you wanted. And so they're creating a game based on these. So you might draw this on the ground and students try to act it out, or students try to fill it in, or students are writing the instructions. So you would just be emphasizing like flow charting as part of what this is. So you could use the station for whatever skill you want to draw out of them. So you want to see how well do they read it? And do they know what the task is accomplishing? Or do you want them to like act it out? Do you want them to give a summary and write kind of a narrative about what is happening? So there's lots of ways to use flowcharts outside and test students' knowledge of it. And so again, here's flowchart hopscotch. So here's a picture where as they go through it, they're interacting. So in elementary school, you might see some like crawl and jump type of obstacle courses. This would be a flowchart obstacle course where they're doing the activity as they go through it outside. So that's an option for station number 4. And then station number 5 is just writing out some code sequences, maybe that make a shape, like turn right, turn, move forward, turn right, and getting students to guess which shape is created by what they're reading. And then they would just turn in as part of their answer sheet, maybe of what shape they thought it was created, so that they wouldn't be writing anything, or maybe vice versa. Maybe you gave them a shape and they had to write, and then the next period made a new one, etc. So all of those stations, like I said, that gives you 5 to start with, but from there, it's a springboard of options for students outside with the space that you have to differentiate with harder or easier. So that, again, is definitely an outside activity and definitely unplugged, so that your students would have a lot of fun enjoying a nice day out there. Answers for some of the questions that we provided are also linked so that your students have that, along with even more. There's so many options when you start thinking about what your students can do and how you can turn simple playground games into an unplugged activity for pattern recognition, data analysis, flow charting, steps, algorithms. There's so many things that can be turned into computer science unplugged. And then the last one is a fun way to introduce conditionals with Simon Says. So Simon Says is, just the simple game of when I say to do something, but I use the keyword Simon Says, you should do it. And if I forget that keyword and you do what I say, you're out. So if you've never played Simon Says, I've started it with 3 or 4 different rounds. So round number 1 is the traditional round, and it's just reminding your students how to play Simon Says. And then round 2 is a conditional of if then. So as you're starting to get into more programming, then students are learning. Sorry, AirPod fell out. Malfunction. Can you hear me again, Jenna?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So as they get into more programming, conditionals are going to be important to what they want to happen in their code. So using Simon Says as a way to start teaching conditionals is a fun way to engage everybody. Again, you can do this in the classroom, or if you've got a nice day, you can go outside and play this in your backyard of your school, in your garden. It doesn't require a lot of space, but you can have a lot of fun if you can spread out and have students act a little silly or strike a superhero pose. So all of these, if your hair is in a ponytail, then touch your shoulders. And you would just add that Simon Says to weed students out. And then round 3, you're doing if then else. So we're starting to get even more complex in the conditional statements that they might see in computer science. Now, this is a round where I might suggest like telling kids, okay, we're going to continue the game, but now I'm going to drop Simon Says, because you don't want everything to be a gotcha. You want them to focus on understanding the conditional. So you might start with Simon Says a couple of times and then just say, for now on, everything I say is going to be a Simon Says, even if I don't say it, so that nobody actually gets out. It's just a game of playing conditionals. And by that time, they're invested. And then round 4 could be anything you want to come up with. So you've got the way to scaffold these opportunities. And then you can even play a couple of times as bell ringers as students join your class and you want to, review a couple. You would just be like, hey, we're going to play a quick game of Simon Says, and you could do this in your classroom. So that brings us to the end of our activities. There's a couple more resources worth mentioning. There are lots of books and resources out there for students. One is a book on outside computing, and then Next Tech has a digital resource book for that we put together for CSPD week that we've linked. There's also just really good unplugged activities as you go through and look online. But as you look again, earlier we said in this lesson that make sure that they do tie into a computer science concept. There's a lot of good lessons out there. And sometimes when we get so excited about doing the unplugged activity that we overlook the computer science concept or we don't spend enough time emphasizing it. So you can see all of these and more linked in the CS Byte.
Sweet. I love
All
that.
right.
Unplugged is such a great way to teach computer science without the devices, and especially when your network goes down or you're dealing with, you know, device issues, or it's a really nice day outside and the kids are acting a little like they have a little too much energy. You can take them outside and work on algorithms, and it's awesome. So I love that. Thank you so much for this bite, Carrie.
No problem. This was a fun one. Hope you get outside and enjoy it.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next time.